It's the 22nd of the first 2025. The time is 3 minutes past 8. Can we get techier than techie things today about all things F1 in news and F1 updates? It's going to get techie, I'm telling you, properly techie, because we've got to talk about Helmut Marko. He's been talking about a multitude of things, speaking about Lewis Hamilton, so too speaking about Charles Leclerc and how they might shape up against Max Verstappen, soon to be five-time champion according to Helmut Marko. So too he's addressed the rumours that Aston Martin are in for Max Verstappen and that those negotiations are ongoing. Jacques Villeneuve, the legend that is one-time champion 1997 Jerez, he too has chimed in, being very disparaging, some may say, about Aston Martin and indeed their chances of winning a world championship in the short to medium term. Oh, and by the way, we've got to talk about Lando Norris because he's done a bit of a biopic, if I call that. Is that the right word? A big interview with BBC and Sarah Holt, in which he did the thing that Lando Norris has made an industry out of doing over the past 12 months, leveraging the expectation, pressure, doom cycle. Why would he still be doing that? But we'll talk to that. So too Helmut Marko talking. So too Sir Lewis Hamilton. Go on, let me tell you this first and foremost. First order priority, first on the docket. Of course it has to be Sir Lewis Hamilton. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this as far as the virality within the space that is F1? Listen, I've got to confess, I have not. And to his experience in a car today, Lewis Hamilton said as follows, per Chris Medden, who for the avoidance of doubt is one of the goatiest F1 journalists to have ever goated. Lewis Hamilton said as follows, and I quote, that today was one of the best feelings of my life. That when I started the car up and drove through the garage door, I had the biggest smile on my face. It reminded me of the very first time I tested a Formula One car. Oh, the humanity. Is this not the Sir Lewis Hamilton that we've been looking for the past 36 months? It sounds and looks and feels like this dude has fallen back in love with the game. Is this 2018 Singapore Lewis or even 2008 Silverstone? For we will need to resurrect that fella, that iteration of Lewis Hamilton, if indeed he harbours aspirations of delivering upon the promise that is the unprecedented 8th World Championship. And there are more footage. Of course, we've got to look at the footage. I mean, bloody Nora, have you seen what's been going on here? Check out Exhibit A. Oh, the humanity indeed, Tyson. Does it get much more blockbuster than that? Lewis Hamilton in the yellow helmet, reminiscent of Ayrton Senna, his hero, who sadly didn't have the opportunity to race in the red car with the yellow badge and the black prancing horse atop. Does it get much more blockbuster, much more romantic? They need to make a bigger deal of this than I think they're already making. You guys have seen the numbers on social media et al. 4.6 million. He's breaking records. The symbiosis of Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton in conjunction with Scuderia Ferrari is doing bits for all and sundry, all related parties in a way that I'm not sure too many people anticipated. Charles Leclerc had held the record previously, didn't he? For the most likes, the most engagement from an F1 post on Instagram. Lewis Hamilton just shot that out the park. All and sundry need to take 2 seats, but that's the good news. There is, of course, bad news, because now we've got to talk about Lewis Hamilton's ability to deliver upon that promise, that hype. And you guys know me, ever the statistical pessimist. Listen, you know what? Let's bench that for a second. We'll get to that finally. And by the way, Tyson, you're an absolute legend. 150 of you in the chat, and we'll go back and forth. I want to go a little bit longer today because there's so much that I want to talk about. Can Lewis Hamilton deliver upon that promise, the 8th? Because the bluster and the hype will make you believe, but then the statistics will make you take a second guess. 40-year-old champions are far and few between, aren't they? Very rarefied air in F1. 1966, Brabham. Farina in 1950, the first ever F1 champion. And so too Juan Manuel Fangio, who won his last championship in 1957. Those have been the only champions of the drivers' variety in history to win the championship at age 40 or older. Lewis Hamilton, fundamentalists and evangelists alike, will say that Lewis Hamilton is different. You see the way he keeps himself in shape. Like, he's always in good nick. He's ready to go. Market leading shape even. Angela's back in the camp now. The love as far as Sir Lewis and F1 has come back. You can see it in his eyes. Therefore, expect a different Sir Lewis Hamilton, a different iteration of that F1 peddler in 2025 as versus what you've seen over the past 24 months. Who bloody knows? And again, we're going to have a conversation, the modes of discourse to come are all going to be under the umbrella heading of who is going to win in 2025. That's the question on everybody's lips, right? And I'm desperately trying to put on my F1 investigative hat with a view to figure it out. Here's what Helmut Marko said, and again, not yet about 2025 and who's going to win it. This is more pertaining to Maximilian Verstappen and where he's going to be. Lest we forget, over the past 7 days, there's been much rumour and speculation, a gazillion reports about Maximilian Verstappen being in negotiations in real time with Aston Martin. It feels like when there's smoke, there is F1 fire now. That we know Max Verstappen has a performance clause in his contract that stipulates if he's not within the top 3 after the 3rd race in 2025, which is Suzuka, that he can null and void his contract with immediate effect. You know already that father of Max, Jos Verstappen, has always been paranoid that his son's career will fall at the very same hurdles that his did. Ergo, Team Verstappen, Raymond Vermeulen, Max Verstappen's manager, so too father of Max, Jos Verstappen, have always instituted within Max Verstappen's contract these get out of jail clause. They did it back then, and I see no reason why they would not do it now, when the risks are so much higher, when the negotiating power is exponentially greater now than it was in 2018. And to that point, Helmut Marko, Dr. Helmut Marko, consultant of Red Bull GmbH, had this to say. I don't comment on the content of the contract, but in any case, we are confident that we can provide Maximilian Verstappen with a good car. Our engineers have made good progress with the data. We are therefore, as the Bulls that are red, optimistic. He continued, addressing the interest from outside parties, mention no names, Aston Martin. That's all well and good about Aston Martin, $1 billion contract, etc., etc. But Max has a contract with us until the end of 2028. Marko continued, especially because I know how loyal and grateful Max is to Red Bull. That is why we will also be a Red Bull driver. He will also be, a Red Bull driver in 2026 and as a 5-time world champion. Said with chest. They are confident in Maximilian Verstappen's ability to deliver, of course, in the eventuality that he has a car capable of this. This is the oldest truism in F1 history, right? You can't do anything if you don't have the car. Your move, therefore, Red Bull. Can you fix for the bloody understeer? Can you fix for the suspension that historically, over the past 24 months, let's say, has been too stiff, prohibitive even, disabling Maximilian Verstappen from riding the curves, which is key in 2024 and therefore 2025? Can they fix for all of the aforementioned? You'll recall that Adrian Newey said once upon a time at last year's livery launch that he was concerned that they'd already hit the ceiling, that the rest were going to catch up. And that's what we saw last year in real time. Do they fix this design philosophy, this incorrect design philosophy tree up which the bulls that are red even have been barking? Helmut Marko continues. He says, oh, this is Christian Horner, excuse me. Christian Horner said as follows: Max Verstappen has always been crystal clear with the team, telling motorsport.com. His commitment has been unwavering. He enjoys the people and he trusts the people that he works with and enjoys very much being part of the team. We are like family, therefore. There's always going to be speculation, says Christian Horner. That's inevitable, but as long as we can continue to provide him with a competitive car and an environment that he enjoys racing in, I don't see any desire for him to be elsewhere. These, Christian Horner, are big ifs, humongous ifs. Max Verstappen has echoed those sentiments. You remember them pushing him at the FIA driver press conferences last year. 3 times they asked him, will you be staying at Red Bull through to 2028? And twice Maximilian Verstappen danced around the subject, talking about things that he would need as requisites if indeed he were to stay the course. Those, of course, harmony at the team. The big hitters capable of winning championships, let's say an Adrian Newey or a Jonathan Wheatley as an example. Rob Marshall too. All of those aforementioned have since left the team. As a final requisite, Maximilian Verstappen outlined he will need a car capable of winning races and therefore championships. The line of thinking among many F1 aficionados is that of those 3 stipulations, Red Bull currently, as at January 2025, have 0 from 3, that they are very much going into this year on the defence. I read an article saying that Maximilian Verstappen's brilliance was almost like a blindfold for Red Bull. It papered over their multitudinous cracks as far as their technical, mechanical and aerodynamic deficiencies that their car so embodied. Aston Martin maybe, Mercedes maybe, I wouldn't rule it out, notwithstanding Christian Horner and Helmut Marko telling us otherwise. Oh, and by the way, Jacques Villeneuve, 1997 champion, Jerez settings, he's chimed in on this and he said that Maximilian Verstappen would be foolhardy to think that he can go to Aston Martin, notwithstanding Adrian Newey's presence, last airbender settings, and win himself a championship. Here's what Jacques Villeneuve had to say. Max would be more like, what's my next step? He said, at Ferrari you win, at Mercedes you win, but not so with Aston Martin. If you want to win races, you don't go to Aston. Why? Because they don't win races and they don't therefore win championships. He continues, like Lewis Hamilton, he wants to win. That's why he went to Scuderia Ferrari and not Aston Martin. Oh, the humanity. And there's a growing concern at Aston Martin, by the way, that Lance Stroll is holding them back. There's a growing sentiment in the paddock that if indeed Lawrence Stroll wants to deliver upon the promise, because they do have a good team, Alonso's there, Adrian Newey is there, maybe they can build a car in 2026 when it's the new rules and regs. But if they want to deliver on that promise, then they need to flotsam. They need to get rid of flotsam and jetsam F1. Of course, I'm talking about Lance Stroll. For a team is only as strong as its weakest link. That's never been true than in F1. Oh, the humanity. Let's talk about Lando Norris. because this is where it gets techie. And again, we're going to have this conversation under the umbrella heading of who will win in 2025. You guys let me know in the chat who you think's gonna smash it. To save a dying puppy, who do you think of those drivers, those 20 F1 peddlers on the grid, which one of those do you think is going to smash it in 2025? Because this is the conversation and the discourse that we're going to have now. Lando Norris has gone on a BBC podcast and said as follows: when the realization kind of sets in that the championship was gone in 2024, it's a tough one, he told the BBC podcast, the BBC F1 podcast, back at base. He continues, does Lando Norris: this is what I've done since I was a kid. This is all that I want to do. So as soon as that kind of candle is gone and it's over, it hurts. Lando Norris, of course, talking about the fact that he had an opportunity in his hands to win his maiden World Drivers' Championship, and he let it go. They were brilliant, were they, last year? McLaren, Lando too, at seizing defeat from the jaws of victory, mistakes at each and every single turn of the strategic and driving variety. You remember when Lando had the opportunity to see the bloody yellow flag? 2 bites at that cherry. Both the double waved and the flashing lights. Max Verstappen only had time to see the flashing light and he nailed it. Lando Norris did not, and therein lies the difference in it if you're going to try and summarise it. Oh, and by the way, Lando Norris continues. It's been a year where actually I've been pretty proud of my performance, proud of performing under pressure. That's what we've been under. Delivering when I have. Is this dude smoking? How? Delivering what? Yeah, he was good in short bursts, but to beat a Maximilian Verstappen, to win a Drivers' Championship where all roads will go through the Dutchman, you need to be consistent, Lando. You know more than ever. Yeah, at Singapore you were incredible, but even then you were making mistakes when you were 20-something seconds down the road. This makes no sense. I worry for Lando going forward that he's papered over the cracks that saw the demise of his title challenge in 2024. That it's one of these. He's turning an eye right. This is willful negligence now. Lando is brilliant and has the potential to be great, but he's got to address these pitfalls in real time. Am I being too noddy here? Expecting too much? Some will say that Lando's still young, but he's been in F1 6 years now. This will be his 7th. Ergo, wouldn't expect to see him keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Defensive posture off the line or lack thereof. Failing to consolidate a pole position over the course of the first lap, as near as makes no difference every single race weekend. This for Lando Norris is unacceptable. So to hear him talk about how well he performed, how he performed under pressure, makes me sick, makes me think, convinced even that something else is afoot. There is a fine line between constructive criticism, even self-deprecation and delusion, and I'm not sure that Lando Norris is navigating that dotted line, those very murky waters, as well as I think he should. Pick up the phone, Lando, have a word with Nico Rosberg, because if there was a dude that epitomised overperformance, outperforming your ability, that, ladies and gentlemen, has a name, and it was Nico Rosberg in 2016. There is no way that he deserved to beat Lewis Hamilton that year, but he got it over the line, and I think that's what Lando needs to do. Whatever fountain it is that Nico Rosberg was drinking from in 2016, Lando Norris needs to pay a visit and drink from the same fountain. But I digress. Lando Norris continues. I've made mistakes, and at the same time I've learnt a lot from those mistakes. Yeah, you better hope so, chap. No kidding, Sherlock. You need to, definitely. Maybe am I being too harsh, chat? I feel like he's so good. This is my problem. When I see Lando Norris put 20-something seconds on Maximilian Verstappen, I've got to hold him to a higher state of account now, because he showed us he's more than capable of winning a championship. But then again, in the same sense, he continues to seize defeat from the jaws of victory. Lando continues. So for us to go into next year, going We have what it takes. We have a car. I believe I'm good enough a driver, and I've got everything that it takes. Define everything it takes. We just talked about a gazillion things that Lando doesn't have, and more pertinent than all is the ability to learn from one's mistakes and continuously improve. Delusion, therefore, isn't part of that automotive pugilistic equation, is it? Lando continues, I'm excited to go into 2025 knowing that I've learned a lot, I've improved a lot, and I'm ready to bring the fight to everyone. Everyone? Really? Lando Norris? Did you really mean to say that? By everyone, do you mean Max Verstappen, fire-breathing Dragon F1 peddler, forcing to be 5-time champion? Some say. Really? Are you prepared to pay that tax, or do you just want to be friends with Max Verstappen? Because there is a tax to be paid if indeed you want to win a World Drivers' Championship, if past is prologue. By everyone, are you talking about Sir Lewis Hamilton? Are you talking about Charles Leclerc? Are you talking about your teammate Oscar Jack Piastri? I say all that to say this, there is a tax to be paid, and I'm not sure that Lando, despite his words, is prepared to pay it. Lando continues, I quote, confidence is something I've struggled with in the past, and probably I've only built enough up through the season to go, I'm confident that I'm good enough a driver to win a championship next year, and I can bring a fight to whoever wants to fight me for it, mate. Them's fighting words, Lando. Them there is fighting words, and I'm just not sure at this juncture, as at the 22nd of January 2025, that Lando Norris has the requisite substance to back up them there fighting words. I'm not sure, but I say all of that to say this. If we're talking about odds makers, the F1 actuarials, they still have Lando Norris as the favourite to win in 2025. If they run a simulation 100 times, they're saying that Lando Norris wins 29.4 of those times. Maximilian Verstappen is second favourite as at the 22nd of the 1st. He, they say, wins 27.7 times if you run 100 simulations. Charles Leclerc, they say, wins 16.6. That sounds a bit remarkable, eh? 16? Isn't that Charles Leclerc's number? 16.6% of the time. One Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton, wins only 11.7% of the time. This is what the F1 actuarials are saying. Oh, the humanity. And Helmut Marko says something else. Dr. Helmut Marko always gets down and dirty, right? Gives you the hot fire as far as F1 commentary, leans into the controversial and polemic. Those are the waters in which he wades. I feel that he's more comfortable there. Doesn't care, does he? Doesn't pull any punches. And here's what he's had to say. He says, we want to look out for McLaren and Ferrari because they're Red Bull's main competitors. Though the two race teams, they are the two race teams that had the best base for their cars last season and were able to perform well around most circuits, the most frequently occurring automotive pugilistic challenges. They can build on that, but none of the drivers stand out for me. This is what Dr. Helmut Marko told Sport Bild, German publication. For the avoidance of doubt, all F1 publications are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. This, ladies and gents, is one of the half-decent ones. He continued, speaking of Lando Norris, he says that he showed he was mentally not ready for the World Championship yet, while his teammate Oscar Piastri is too inexperienced. Moreover, they will take points off of each other next season. That's what he expects to see too at Scuderia Ferrari. Let's talk about that. Sometimes you got to defer to people more intellectually capable than you. Mr. Peter D. Wins, a friend of the channel, has always said that Maximilian Verstappen isn't the dragon for which Lando Norris will need to solve for, not first order priority at least. He will need to make sure he beats Oscar, a dude who's coming on right. Momentum settings getting better by the day. That last year was only his sophomore season for Pete's sake. Imagine him therefore in a couple of years' time. Let's talk about the mistakes and the mental immaturity, mental fortitude or lack thereof. I would agree with Dr. Helmut Marko. I would agree with it. Zach Brown said he's got no right to talk about my driver's mental fortitude or lack thereof. Not dissimilar to Toto, the boy who cried wolf many cycles ago. But I think he's right. You know why? In the final Grand Prix, when Lando Norris had not that much pressure on him, not a fire-breathing dragon in Maximilian Verstappen right behind him, look at how he started then. He was perfect. None of the defensive posture, lack thereof, that so epitomised his season before then. He was brilliant, consolidated for pole position nicely, as if there were nothing at stake, not a constructors or anything. How does Lando Norris react as far as starting off the line, shifting up through the gears, dialing in the requisite amount of RPM, not too much, not too little, Goldilocks settings? How does he do that when Max Verstappen is breathing down his neck and it's all to play for as far as the Drivers' Championship is concerned? I think Helmut Marko might be barking up the wrong tree, and he doubles down and starts talking about the Scuderia Ferrari driver pairing. Here's what he had to say about them. And this is techie. He says, Charles Leclerc is good in qualifying but makes a lot of mistakes in the races. No kidding, Sherlock. Like, he's talking the truth. Lest we forget Paul Ricard, Imola in 2022 as well, Monaco, Brazil sprint race, going out in qualifying with inters when there was no sign of rain yet. Charles Leclerc has a cheeky mistake of the unforced variety still in his locker, notwithstanding the fact that 2024 was his best season to date. Yeah, he's getting better. Yeah, he's trending those mistakes down to zero as near as makes no difference. But if you comb through 2-4 with forensic attention to detail, you will see that there are still those mistakes. Baku, you could argue that he lost that race because of the time that he lost in free practice. Again, yeeting it into the bloody barrier. Build a campaign over the course of a race weekend, especially street circuits. Momentum is, of course, currency. So then why was Charles Leclerc doing that if, again, he's perfect and he's already trended his mistakes of the enforced variety down to zero? Abu Dhabi, Las Vegas last year, the mistakes are never far from Charles Leclerc. They follow him like a shadow. Helmut Marko is right yet again, and he continues. And Lewis Hamilton still has speed, but can he keep that up for the whole season? He's raining on our parade, isn't he? How very dare you, Helmut Marko? This is meant to be a day of positivity, and he pours his very dour, unique brand of negativity all over Sir Lewis Hamilton fans' dreams. He continues, I have my doubts about whether Sir Lewis can keep that up, that pace over the course of a race weekend for an entire 24 race season. Even if he has a good Ferrari and we build a mediocre Red Bull for Max, I would put my money on Maximilian Verstappen. Oh, the humanity. Genuinely, I don't know what to say to that. Listen, with my Sir Lewis Hamilton cap firmly on, am I having that from Helmut Marko? That Maximilian Verstappen in mediocre machinery could beat Lewis Hamilton in good, quick machinery? I'm not sure. I can't get down with that. But I think I understand the sentiment that he's alluding to. Equal-ish machinery. To save a dying puppy, do you go Max Verstappen or do you go Sir Lewis Hamilton? A 40-year-old Sir Lewis Hamilton looking to recapture his form. I would argue if you're going Sir Lewis Hamilton, then you're banking on material variable change. He will need to be, as aforementioned, 2018 Sir Lewis or 2008 Sir Lewis Silverstone. He'll need the car underneath him. He'll need to blend very well with a brand new machine, not having had long enough in which to embed himself. He'll need all of those things if he's to deliver on the promise of the 8th. And I don't know. Who's to say that that's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? He had a good qualifying, a good session today, but in a car, an SF23 iteration from a couple of years ago. Bloody, the tyres didn't even make sense. It's academy tyres. These aren't proper tyres. Ergo, this isn't like for like as far as what Lewis will be driving when the season kicks off proper in Australia. I'm not sure that I don't back Maximilian Verstappen. Yeah, the Lewis Hamilton evangelists and fundamentalists will come out with me. But I've always been of a statistical mindset. Lewis is 40 years old. Yes, he's probably the best 40-year-old that we've ever seen in F1. Yes, it's impossible not to get swept up by this bluster and hype. Seeing Lewis in the red overalls with the yellow badge, with the black prancing horse atop. It's hard for me not to dust off my Lewis Hamilton cap and put it firmly back on. But Helmut Marko, in saying that, is giving us a dose of reality now. A bitter dose of reality for Sir Lewis Hamilton fans around the world. If Maximilian Verstappen rocks up and has himself anywhere near a car capable, ostensibly, of winning races and therefore championships, it's going to get techie. Not just for Sir Lewis Hamilton, but it will be techier than techie things for the other 19 on the grid. Maximilian Verstappen, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, stop glazing him, Cameron. But Maximilian Verstappen, for the avoidance of doubt, is a whirling dervish yet and still. For some say soon to be 5-time champion, but I digress.